What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My guest today is a business and career coach with 20 years of background in the financial services in London, England, where he's originally from. Nick has lived all over the world in places like the Philippines, Florida, New York, and he now calls Charlotte, North Carolina his home. Over the last 4 years, Nick has shifted his focus on creating a business that is centered around coaching people through business and mindset management. He's even trained with Tony Robbins people. He's got a lot of great insights, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. So please help me welcome Nick Davies. Nick, my friend, welcome to the JAK'ed Up podcast. It's great to have you on the show.
Likewise, great to be here, John. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. You know, I have been interested in talking to you for quite a while now. I read through your bio and some of your information, and one of the things that really got me when I first started, checking into you to have you on the show was the fact that some of the things that you do. I mean, you're like a broad spectrum type of person. You're a certified health coach. You're also a business coach. You teach people about mindset and things of that nature. And the fact that you have been coached through Tony Robbins program, dude, that's phenomenal to me. Tony Robbins is like a huge, huge hero. So I have been dying to pick your brain for quite a while now. So with all that being said, why don't you give us a little background, into Nick Davies? How did you get started into, because I believe you started in the business world, like maybe in finance or something like that, and then you transitioned into coaching and whatnot. So why don't you just give us a little background on your story?
Yeah, first part of my career or business life was about working in financial services. Yeah, working for big banks. I kind of fell into that right out of high school, just like, well, this was okay. And I carried on doing that for almost 20 years overall. And really over the last, almost decade now, I started to ask myself questions of what do I actually want to do here? What do I want to be when I grow up? Or what do I want my life to look like? What do I want to have in my life? What do I want to spend my time doing? And had some kind of stark experiences to help me along that process. And then that started to build, right? It's not just a case of one day doing that and the next day doing something else. There's always a journey, of course. And
Sure.
So it's taking those small steps along that process to get to where I am today and doing having my life set up on the terms that I want. And there's always more, of course. But yeah, that process was from working in banking, going through the situation of getting to the right location or the right country I wanted to live in, and then thinking about how do I do this? Like, what do I do? Like, do I follow my passion of health? And do I leverage what I know already and kind of come together in that combination is where I am. Found Tony Robbins, went through that Coaches Academy, which is an amazing experience. Worked as a Tony Robbins coach for a long time. And yeah, going through that all together is the combination of all my experiences and what we have here today.
Wow. There is so much that I could just go back and ask you questions about that we could literally sit here and talk for 3 hours, but I don't, and granted, people would probably get a lot of value out of that, but I really want to touch on, well, first of all, let's back up a little bit. So now you're originally from London, and so you spent the majority of the time where you were working in banking in London, or did you do some of that in the States as well?
I worked for about, 7 or 8, 9 years in London in banking, a couple of different banks, and I worked in a couple of different places in England as well. We did some outsourcing stuff. That was my first experience of that. I spent a bit of time in India doing that, and I lived in the Philippines for 2 years working in banking as well. Then I worked in banking in the States, in Florida, and also New York. So yeah, definitely lots of different places. I worked for one company for a long time, but what was really interesting is that if it's a big company, it's the same company. It doesn't really matter, because if you're doing different roles in different locations, things are different. And I think that's one of the biggest things I wanted to take with me in my second career, if you like, in terms of coaching. Because I mean, a lot of that stuff, what I do now, I was doing anyway, but I didn't really know that I was doing it. And there was no structure around it. There was no intent necessarily around it, apart from just doing what was kind of felt more innate to me. But I think that the experience of working with loads of different people, having different perspectives and opinions, is what really shaped me to where I am now.
Yeah. It's amazing how as we go through life's journey, we get ourselves into different situations, and depending on the feedback and the people that we work with and things like that, they really have a tendency to shape what it is that we want to do. I mean, it's like I made a pivot to being a wellness coach, and some of the things that I do now at 52 years old. And I've done a lot of things in my life. The majority of my life I was an automotive mechanic. I was a service technician for pools and hot tubs. I've worked in the computer industry. I worked at IBM for a couple of years. So I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, a master of none, but it's just amazing how people can have these experiences with people, and they shape what it is that we eventually wind up doing. So let me ask you, what was the main reason? What was your main reason for wanting to come to the States versus staying in London?
I don't know. I still haven't quite figured this out. To be completely honest, I mean, of course, I'm being a little bit facetious, but for me, I always wanted to live in the States, and I did a lot of traveling. I quit my job back in like 2008, 2009 when that whole crisis was going on, and I did a lot of traveling with a friend of mine, and that opened things up for me as well in terms of thinking, right? So that was kind of the genesis of the process of like, I remember going to a boss of mine before I did that in like early 2009, and just saying, I don't know what to do here. Like I've got no excitement in work anymore. I feel like I've done it,
Right.
and I was only in my mid 20s. I was like, there was nothing for me. I got no drive, and it was that thing I started to pull on, like that string I started to pull on,
Gotcha.
was really the part of the start of that, really. And in back of my mind, I'd always wanted to experience spending time in America, and like really, if I think about it now, it's like I really wanted to live here. Things seem to sit. I'm very pleased that I'm from England, and I appreciate that for sure. But if things feel like they work a bit better for me in the States, and I just love to be here. So yeah, that's just for me how it feels where I need to be. That's how it feels. It's an interesting thing, because I think there's the balance between the logic and the structure of it, but also the feeling of wanting to be somewhere and knowing that just it feels right.
Right. Okay, so let's get into some of your philosophies when it comes to coaching. And when I say coaching, I mean all aspects of it, because as I said, you cover both the business world and the health as well. How important would you say that the power of habits and daily routines are when it comes to imparting that type of stuff onto your clients, no matter whether it's a health coaching client or a business coaching client?
Yeah, I love the distinctions you're making, John, because it doesn't matter, right? Health, business, career, finances, relationships. We take ourselves wherever we go. And I think if we start with at the beginning, we want to start at that place to understand where we are, what we've got going on, right? And then we want to bounce between starting with the end in mind as well. So where do we want to go? But we've also got to be very clear about where we are. And it starts with our thinking. So it doesn't really matter the subject that we're working on, the area of life, because it comes down to our thoughts. If we have something like 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day, those are the same thoughts most of the time. Like 90% of those thoughts are the same, and about the same percentage are negative. So we've got to be very aware of those thoughts that are coming in, and those thoughts are based on patterns. And you talked about habits, and think about patterns as the same thing. Most of us, all of us have patterns, and most of us have patterns that we run continuously over and over and over, based on distinctions that we made, things that we were told, references that we have when we were growing up.
Right.
Bottom line is that most of the patterns that we all have are unintentional patterns, and we run them. Some helpful for us, some are not. And to answer your question, yeah, it comes back down to habits and awareness. But what we can't do is we can't just stick new things in before we're aware of what's there already. We can, and sometimes it's successful, but most of the time we need to really understand what's there first and where we want to go. So absolutely, and I think that the habits is really, really important, and being intentional about that is really important. But I want to make sure we come back before that, like what happens before that, before we start to throw those things in. Because here's the thing, you could say, okay, well, look, we know that the habits of successful people are, for instance, to have a great morning routine. Now, the specific mechanics of that morning routine might differ from one to the next, depending on where you are in your life, what you're doing. But, it's probably fair to say that most people that are successful have morning routines.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a morning routine or one that really supports you, saying, look, these are the 5 things that you need to do to create a great morning routine, just go ahead and do it. That's not going to have much level of success. Even if you know logically and can say, yes, I get it, I agree, then it's not likely you won't do it. Well, you will do it, excuse me. Because we've got to dial back first what's really there. So yeah, they're absolutely super important to be able to stack those habits in a way that supports your day, especially first thing in the morning. It's so powerful. And you know this deeply, I'm sure, as a wellness coach, is that what you put in first thing in the morning, and whether that's like your physical body, what type of workout you're doing or not, as a case may be, is really going to set you up for the rest of the day.
Right. And it's really amazing because, and I'm sure you're well aware of this. One of the first places where I learned about creating certain habits, like when you first wake up, was from Tony Robbins. He talked about his morning ritual of taking 3 minutes to be grateful about different things. And then, he had all these routines that he did, and it was a habit that he put himself in that state every morning. And then you look at people like the author Stephen Covey, who's written many books on, the seven habits of highly effective people and all these other things. When you look at so many of these sources, even when it comes down to, health and nutrition, it is all about habits. And I know I have found, working with my clients, that as a coach, it's a matter of looking at your client as an overall view and trying to pick out what habits they have are good and build upon them, and what habits they have that are negative and try to move away from them. Have you found that same experience?
Yeah, bingo. Absolutely right. Because most of those habits that are there are not intentional, but some are good. Right? Some are neutral and some are negative. And we can only build on success. That's a principle of thinking about. So we can only build on success. In order to do good, we've got to see what we have been doing that is already good, and build on that for sure. It's like key, because we want to build that momentum back to that mindset, right? That's the psychology of it. It's showing yourself that you're doing great. Right. And celebrating. And that's one of the key things to do every single time I'm working with clients is, what can we celebrate? What are we celebrating? What's great? What can you be proud of? What can you acknowledge? Right. We sometimes need to dance around that a little bit, because the celebrations aren't necessarily automatic, or that word doesn't necessarily resonate with some people. But it can be, like I mentioned, it can be acknowledgements. It can be, what are you proud of? Like, what did you do good? What went great? And there's always something. Right, there's always something if you're willing to look for it. And most people will go for the default of, well, this was good, but, or I was pleased with that, but I could have done better.
Yeah.
So let's wipe that away and keep it separate. Yep.
Exactly. But if it was up to me, but would be like banished from the English language unless they were talking about somebody's backside. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so many people use that word all the time. It's like, I really want to be successful in my career, but A, B, and C are holding me back. Or I really want to lose 20 pounds. I know that I've got excess body fat, but I have this, and this. My life's too busy. I can't do all these things. I can't make it to the gym 4 days a week. To me, but is like the scapegoat of the English language. And like I say, unless it's got 2 T's on the end of it, I think it needs to be gone. That's just my personal opinion. So now let me ask you, we've talked about habits and whatnot. What do you think, as far as as human beings overall, how important do you feel it is to define what your life's purpose is and be able to use that to build your own happiness within?
I think it's fundamental. There's something innate in all of us of wanting to have meaning in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning is not necessarily the same as happiness, however. It's to be something that's bigger than you. And I know that sounds kind of grand, but we can see this in all of us if we're willing to look. I think the difference here, John, is just most people play life on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
They just go from one thing to the next, do what they think that they should do, whatever's in front of them, and kind of be driven by the day, driven by the week, driven by their life. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no judgment there. And perhaps it's just a challenge or a question around that if you're doing that, are you really fulfilled by that? Do you really have a meaning that allows you to move forward through the day and do it in a place that gives you that high level of fulfillment?
Mm-hmm.
Because many people will either not even think about that, and at some point in their life they'll go, oh man, no, well, I'm at a certain age that I missed it, or I had a distinction and made a question or something I saw and that made me question everything. And so I really do think it does come back down to that your point, like define what your life purpose is. And I like the way they use their define, because I think that's much better than find.
Mm-hmm.
Find really didn't sit well with me when I was first thinking about that, because it feels too big. It feels like I can't get to it, and it's like, well, I've got to find it. Where is it? Where do I look? Whereas define or is great, and also I use the word create. It's like, well, who do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Because you get to choose. And I think that's really important, because that allows you to be the best version of yourself. And when you are the best version of yourself, and it's a journey always, right? We never really got there. It's just going on that process and have the life that you really want. I'm willing to bet that most people, even if they say that they're content with where they are, there's something else. There's a little bit more. Like, challenge it for yourself. I've been on this real kick of honesty at the moment, like just for yourself, not from someone else challenging you, putting you out there, but just for yourself, like to ask yourself questions. Am I really happy? Really? Like, are you really content? What does that really mean? Is that all you want? Are you okay with that? Because it's so easy for us to get in that comfort zone, get comfortable, and then not see the potential, or not see the pain of just continuing to do what we do. Right. And think about that when it comes to people with wellness, right? Well, look, people tend to soften things so it doesn't hurt so bad, right? I'm a little bit overweight. I could do with losing a few pounds. I'm better than I used to be. Hey, I'm doing better than most people. Those are all softeners. They're fine to say, but they're softeners. Let's just say, look, I'm fat. I'm 20 pounds overweight. It feels terrible. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Those things are helpful because it allows you to move forward. And it might be a little bit painful in the moment, but we've got to think long term. I think that's the concept, John, for me, of really when it comes to thinking about leadership, starting with personal leadership, is the difference between thinking short term and long term. If you're able to live in the long term and take actions based on the long term, it's much easier to have those type of conversations and make proper decisions about where the type of person that you want to be and where you want to go and what you want to have in your life, what you can create, what you can give back, and how you can continue to grow.
Yeah, for sure. Now I want to go back and touch on something that you said here just a few minutes ago. You were talking about it being too late. It's like, oh, well, it's too late for me. How many people have you run across, not only in coaching clients with health, but in business as well, that feel like, well, I am 20 or 30 pounds overweight, or yeah, I'd really like to start a business, but I'm older now and I've kind of missed my window and it's too late for me. How important do you think it is to instill in people that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can pivot, you could be going in one direction and it just not be working for you, and you can pivot and do something entirely new no matter how old you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, well, look, if today you're too old, well, what's going to happen tomorrow, right? You're going to be any younger, right? So it's, give yourself that urgency, right? So like, to your point, it's never too late, but now is always the right time, right? The right time is always now. It's not tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes. It's not another week. It's not I need to gather my thoughts. It's not I'm waiting for something else. Now, take the action. Because look, people don't do that because they're scared, and that's fine. That's a natural response. There's fear. Our reptilian mind says, hey, don't do that, because our reptilian mind is there for our survival, not for our happiness. Doesn't care about our happiness, wants us to survive. And that's a really important part of us. Thank you very much, reptilian mind. I appreciate you for helping me survive. I need that. And right now, I don't need that input because I'm going to survive. But what I want, really, I wasn't really happy. I want to thrive. Now is the right time. You're never going to get today back. Go for it. Because, look, just wherever you are, whatever you do, that there's a risk, right? People don't do it because they're scared about taking the risk. What if I do it and it doesn't work out?
Right.
Now, what if I put myself on the line and I'm not the person I thought I was? Well, first of all, I challenge that because there's never an end point to that anyway. So it's just a journey to the person that you want to be in the first place, right? And it's not a case of trying; it's just a case of doing. I have that so often with clients, John. It's like, I'm trying to get there, I'm trying to get there, I'm trying to get there, I'm trying to get there. Like, no, you are. Like, you're actually doing the work. You're on the journey. You're there, right? I'm like, come back to health and wellness. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to be happier. Like, the fact that you're having this conversation is that you're doing it. You're on the journey. Recognize that, because again, we can only build on success. And so those people should really appreciate themselves for doing what they're doing, having the conversations, and just continuing to move forward, right? Because back to the risk. Look, there's a risk of doing other things. Absolutely right. There is a risk of doing other things, but there's a bigger risk of not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you are where you are right now and you're not 100% fulfilled, then there's a risk that you'll never be 100% fulfilled. Are you willing to live with that risk? Are you willing to be that this part of your life is the best possible version of your life ever? That's what scares me more. I think the association to that part allows freedom to take the risk to do something else. Because the bottom line is that people don't do things because the pain outweighs the pleasure.
Yeah. And
so it's to associate yourself with the pleasure, and the pain of staying where you are will crack people into action for sure.
Indeed. It's like, I have always believed that there is no reward without risk. However, we live in a society today where people get rewarded for risking nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I can see where so many people's mindsets are altered and shifted and not on the right path, because that's the society we live in nowadays. I think a lot of people don't risk anything because they're afraid of failure. They don't want to feel the sting of what failure is all about. But when you look at failure in and of itself, failure is just one more step on the stairway to success. You're never going to achieve success in anything, whether it's weight loss, whether it's creating a business, no matter what it is, you're never going to succeed at anything if you're always afraid to fail. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump in here and make sure that you're enjoying the video. I'm sure you are. And if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell, make sure you select the all feature, so that way you get notified when new episodes of my podcast drop. And if you would, right up here in the top right-hand corner of my channel, where my links are, there's a Patreon link. If you guys could help out there, it'd grease the wheels to keep this thing moving, and I surely would appreciate it. Now, let's get back into the video.
That's it. I mean, that is bottom line. And so I would suggest that a mindset that we take on, or a belief that we take on, is that we either win or we learn. And so there's so much said about failure and get there quicker and really leaning into failure, and that's all true. And so whatever version of that resonates with you the most, use that one. And for me, it's just I win or I learn. Or my personal, the way I articulate this oftentimes to clients is just to think about action. That action as in moving towards something. And so I think about action in one and two ways. So first way number one is you take action, which is new, and you get a new result. New action equals new result. And in fact, that first one has an A and a B. So 1A is you take new action, you get a new result, and the A is you get the result you expected. The B is you take new action, you get a new result. The B is you get a different result than you expected. Either way, you get a result.
Yeah.
And you could think about that as failing or succeeding, but it's just information. It's just a result. The only way you don't get any more information or a result is by not taking any new action.
Yeah, I know.
That's it.
It's crazy. Yeah, and people do. It is when you break it all down to its basest components. It's really simple. It's just a matter of, in most cases, it's just a matter of changing the way you look at what it is that you're trying to do. And I know today, one of the terms that's becoming really, really popular is personal development or personal growth. Now the concept's been around forever, but they've just kind of coined the phrase around it. And a lot of people are looking for it, but they're not really sure how to go about it. In some cases, they don't even know what it means. So for you, I would ask you, what does it mean to you? What does personal development mean to you? And how do we go about achieving it and even mastering it?
Yeah. It's one of those things you can't really get your arms around, is it? It's like, what is it? Like, there's nothing tangible there. And I think that, a lot of what we do, me and you, and like the massive impact that there is available with coaching and why it's so powerful is because, often those new perspectives you can't see for yourself, right? You're in your game of life playing it so intensely, you just can't see other things because you're just zeroed in. You're blocking and tackling. You're in the moment. Your coach or another person, a mentor, someone you trust, is just sitting on the sidelines and has the benefit of like instant replays, aerial views, and everything, right? They can just see things that are different. Right? So I think that from that point is how I think about coaching. That's to give something tangible around it for people to grab on a little bit, because when you think about personal development or coaching, it can feel like it's a bit fluffy and flowery. Like, what is it? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, in concept, I want to develop myself. I want to grow. I get coaching when it comes to sports or something, but what is it here? And so I think for people that understand it, that's enough. But if you're like coaching curious, right, or you're personal development curious, you're like, what is this all about? What does it mean? Think about it attached to something.
Right.
The only reason that you haven't got the things in your life that you want is because you're not the person that is at that level which allows those things into your life. Again, that sounds a bit flowery as well, but think about it in tangible things so we can start to put it together. Hey, the questions are going to be, what is it you really want? Back to the honesty. What would success look like for you this year? Like, if you had any way you want, what would it be? What's the thing that you've never gone after that you always wanted? And then start to think about that as being real, like an actual tangible outcome, a goal that we can track.
Right.
And so you can track your personal development along that process. I want to make $1 million. Right now, the most I've made is 100,000 a year, let's say. And so think about it. If I want to make $1 million, what type of person do I need to become?
Right.
People that make $1 million, what do they do? And then start to do those things.
Yep.
And doing those things is your personal development. You will grow into that person. And once you are a person that does what a person that earns $1 million a year does, you will start earning $1 million a year in whatever your chosen vehicle or field is. That's how I think about personal development. To add some structure around it so people can grab onto it. No, it's real, right? That's how we track it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I'm so glad that you said that, because it's really, really powerful. And I want to make sure that people understand that, what you said was so spot on. Whatever it is that you want to be, whatever it is that you want to achieve, act like you've already achieved it. Find those people that have already achieved it and study what they've done. Tony Robbins says all the time, success leaves clues, and he's 100% correct. I know in my own business and what I've done with my coaching is when I first started everything, I was all about just teaching people about nutrition, because for me, overall health and wellness is 80% nutrition, because you can be trained by the best trainer in the world in a gym, and you can sleep like, you can get 8 hours of sleep every night and it's all restful sleep and all that stuff. But if your nutrition's not on point, you might as well be pissing up a rope, because it's just not going to work. You're not going to see the results that you want to see. So, that was how I first approached my business when I first started it. But over time, I've started to realize that there are so many things that encompass this concept of wellness. It's not just health. It's not just fitness. It's not just nutrition. It's mindset and emotional health and spiritual health. And all these things combined make a overall, air of wellness in a person. And when I realized that, that's when I started studying all these different types of people, people like Tim Ferriss and Aubrey Marcus, these people that spend their entire lives researching and studying all these different things to try to improve the quality of human life overall. And because so many aspects play a part in it, they touch on all those aspects. And because that's the type of thing I want to impart on my coaching clients, those are the things that I've started to, spend my time learning about myself, because not only is it helping me in my personal development journey, but my clients are going to get the benefit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to go back to what you said about, 80% of health and wellness is about nutrition. It reminds me of a quote from the great Arnold Schwarzenegger: "Abs are made in the kitchen." That's where it's about. You can't exercise out a bad diet, for sure.
Yep. Exactly.
And we can't help but get into these other things, because we're all a collection, individuals collection of all those different areas of our life, and we take ourselves wherever we go. And so it happens often to me where I have clients that come to work on something specific for their business,
right?
And 2 months in, we're working on their marriage, right? Because it's all of those different things equate to the totality of fulfillment in your life, and you can't help but expand those things. What's holding you back? Where is it, right? And we know that 80% of the time it's in your mind, right? You have the best strategy in the world. And it's probably what I'd be interested to hear. Like, you started to refer to this, John, but going down the road of teaching your clients about nutrition, super helpful. And if it's something that you're passionate about, understanding that and taking it in is really fun. And if you're in that growth mindset, open mindset, then you'll start to apply it. But my bet is that you found that even if you were teaching the best stuff available, it's absolutely clear this is what you need to do, strategy is perfect, you find that people won't do it. You're like, why? I laid it out for you. Why won't you? All you have to do is these things, and you'll get to where you want to be. Why aren't you doing it? And that's as soon as you hit that first time, you know that there's more to it.
Yeah. It's like I have put the coordinates in the GPS. I have gassed up your car. The only thing you have to do is drive, and you will reach your destination. And people are like pulling over at McDonald's. It's like, what in the hell is going on? But to your point that you were talking about earlier, going back to the whole nutrition thing and what Arnold said, I think a lot of the problem is people read so much anecdotal information on the internet. And not only that, they read certain things. Like, for example, there was a gentleman named Mark Haub, and he was the guy, they call him the Twinkie guy. He was the one that did a 10-week diet where he ate nothing but Twinkies, and he lost 27 pounds. And people are like, well, hell, if he can lose 27 pounds eating Twinkies, then I could do anything I want to do and lose weight. But what they don't stop to think of, he lost weight eating Twinkies for 10 weeks. But how much of that 27 pounds was muscle mass because he wasn't getting adequate protein? How much of that muscle mass was just cellular growth in and of itself because he wasn't getting the saturated fat he needed in his diet to help assist with generating new cells? People hear these little stories and these things and they don't dig deeper. And when they don't dig deeper, they take stuff at face value, and that's what keeps the diet industry being a multi-billion-dollar a year business. So with that being said, this is where a coach comes in. This is where a coach comes in business. This is where a coach comes in your health and nutrition, your overall wellness. To you, why is coaching so important? What are some of the aspects of coaching that you impart on your clients when it comes to helping them understand just how important your role in their life is?
Coaching is a way of life, John. It's about being able to get more out of a shorter amount of time, squeeze things up, get the compound interest. Because to your point, it just makes my mind go all over the place, because there's so much to say about this, the Twinkie diet guy, right? Like it's back to the short-term versus long-term thinking. Mm-hmm. If you were to really lay it down, someone that comes out and says, look, if they can eat Twinkies, I can eat whatever I want as well. If you were to really sit down with that person and really ask them, do they really think that that's true? My bet is that they would say no. Right. But it's back to the softening again of the pain. Okay, well, I'm going to use that as an excuse to soften my pain and not associate myself with it. So it's a really dangerous thing. It's not that people are stupid. That people aren't stupid. They learn. There's a lot of clever people out there, people that are way smarter than I am, and that it's just about being conscious, aware about those things. Right. So I think that's so important to think about short-term, long-term thinking. That allows you to position yourself to view with a different perspective, right? I think that's starting point, excuse me. But coaching is so important because we want to come back to continually doing that. Here's the example that's been jumping out to me a lot recently. Right, let's just say you decided to do a course on whatever subject that was exciting for you, and let's say to complete that course, you've got to do 50 hours worth of work, right? So you could do that roughly one a week. You could do that in a year, and you would complete that, and you would get to a point where you'd learn some stuff for sure. You get your certificate or whatever, move on. If you were to do that 50 hours in, say, a month, now what difference might that have? Think about that, right? Because it's going to impact your schedule in the short term, because you're going to probably have to move things around a lot to fit that in rather than just 1 hour a week. But overall, it's only going to take a month to do rather than a year. So that's the first interesting concept to think about. Secondly, all time is not equal. Right. Your 50 hours over a year, you do that 1 hour, and you go to the second session, you go, I've forgotten most what I did the last time, or some of it at least. And then onwards and onwards, you're going to build, but the effect is going to be much slower. Whereas if you cram that into a month or even 2 weeks, you're going to do the same amount of time, but the benefit you're going to get is compounded. So it's like compound interest in the stock market. You get this kind of effect. It's exponential growth. Right. And so I want people to really think about that when it comes to coaching as well, because most people that are at a place where they're thinking about coaching curious, as I like to refer to it as, have some sort of success already. Right. And so likely that those people will keep getting success. And so there's an argument to say, well, I know what to do. I'll do it on my own. But back to the point is, well, we know that's not good enough, right? Because it's not about knowing what you know. It's about doing what you know on a consistent basis without letting yourself off the hook. That's why, number one, coaching is so important. And number two is to make sure that you do that in a way that you compress it together. Because think about it overall, where that can lead you. If that 50 hours was done in a month, you've already got that. You've got the same if it was equal, you've got that in a month. Right. But it's not equal. You're going to learn more because you're building all those things together. And so you're going to make distinctions through that 50 hours that you're doing over a month that you wouldn't have got at all over a year without the practice. Right. Excuse me. I'm getting too passionate about this. Crushing the things that are around me.
That's good. I love passion. I'm the same way. I get talking sometimes and I hit my microphone and it goes flying and all kinds of crazy stuff. So believe me, I totally get it. But you're right. You're right. Let's go back. I'm sorry. It's like I'm looking over your shoulder and I see Tony Robbins' face staring at me. So Tony Robbins is like constantly on my mind. But it's like, some of the things that he has said that I've listened to over the years have impacted me so powerfully that I often quote some of the stuff he says. And you know, what you were just talking about is exactly what he talks about when he urges people to find a coach or find a mentor, because, you know, the knowledge that they have and you soaking up that knowledge can literally turn decades into days. You know, and he says that all the time, but it's so true when you break it down to its basest element. You know, I know less about business probably than you do, because I haven't been a businessman all my life. I've been a blue collar worker most of my life. So I could probably learn exponential amount of benefit from working with you. Whereas somebody that is working with me that doesn't know anything, like I have one guy that's in a program that I'm running now. He is literally 55 years old. He's never exercised in his life. And he has all kinds of issues. He has type 1 diabetes, celiac disease. He doesn't have a gallbladder. So, and he's like, I'm literally lost. I don't know what to eat. I don't know how to exercise. I don't know how to do anything. So him connecting with me through a Facebook group that I'm a member of has literally given him the power to change his life, because now he has all that knowledge through me. And I think that that's where coaching is such a powerful, powerful thing. I tell people all the time, you know, there are a lot of people that will invest in stock markets and they'll buy houses and flip them and all these other things. People have absolutely no problem investing in things that they know for a fact, you know, they can see a return on. But so many people are scared or apprehensive about investing in themselves. And I just don't get the concept.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that, John. Right. It's so important. What is your prized asset? What's your biggest asset? What's your biggest opportunity for fulfillment in life? It's you. That's it. That's it. Like, anytime you invest in yourself, you can't lose, because you're building it. You're building more. Maybe the investment that you make isn't in yourself, the output, the direct output from that isn't what you want and need at that moment. But either way, it's an investment, right? You wouldn't. I love this thought process, right? Because it's so helpful, right? But we talked about earlier about doing different things in our life, and searching for other things and going and finding some stuff and then creating your purpose and defining your purpose. Right. And there's a school of thought that says, like, wow, God, I wish I found out what I wanted to do now. I didn't waste those 20 years doing something else. But you know what? It's not a waste, because without doing all of those things, you wouldn't have got to where you are now. So everything in your life happens in the exact way it's supposed to happen in order to get you to the place you are now. Right. And so anytime that you're investing in yourself, it's building the biggest opportunities to get to that next level. Right, and we just want to compress that as much as you can, as you can, because you've got to be thinking about investing in yourself, because but if you want to be the person that earns $1 million a year, what does that person do? Yep. Right? The more successful you get, the more people that you have around you to help you. It's like, I think about it in sports teams, like the teams that are winning multiple championships. Do they go and fire all their coaches?
No. Well, sometimes they do. Sometimes, yeah, I was going to say, sometimes it's just a managerial dispute, and you know, it's money or something else. But yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, it's like when you're seeing growth of any kind, whether it is with your health, whether it is with your business, if you're working with somebody or you're soaking up knowledge from other people in any way, shape, or form, if you're seeing growth, you need to acknowledge that. You need to recognize it for what it is and say, okay, I'm on the right path. Let me continue down this road. Let me find other sources, things of that nature. But back to your point a minute ago, you know, by the same token, you were talking about the failures and the shortcomings that we may have and how people tend to just kind of gloss over them. You need to acknowledge those too. If you have a shortcoming in whatever it is that you're trying to do, you need to say, hey, I'm weak in this area. What do I need to do to get strong? Okay. I have this goal that I want to reach. Like me personally, I'm 53 years old. Okay. Before I die, it may be when I'm 60, it may be when I'm 70, I'm going to compete in a bodybuilding competition. It's a goal that I've set for myself, and I'm going to do it. I may look like a wrinkly muscled dude standing up on a stage when I'm 65 or whatever. Yeah, exactly. And that's okay, because I have a goal, I have a vision, I can see it. Now I need to absorb everything that I can that's going to lead me on that path. So what do? I study people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is still in incredible shape for his age, and other folks, guys that are, I was just watching a video this morning of a natural bodybuilder. His name is Zane something or other. I don't remember his last name, but anyway, this guy is like 53 years old. He's 100% natural. They have tested him many times. He's never taken any kind of performance enhancing drugs or anything. 100% natural, has literally trained every day of his life, smokes weed like a fiend, and he's a monster. He's an absolute monster, but it's his mindset. He decided when he was very young, this is what I want. And he learned, he grabbed on to bits and pieces throughout his life. He's worked with several coaches over the years that have imparted all kinds of wisdom on him. And he's taken all that and built it into his personal journey to where he's seen, massive success in what it was that he wanted to do with his life. And at the end of the day, if you can work with a coach and that coach can help you reach that summit of the mountain that you want to reach, or whatever that it is, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. And you can ask yourself, like, that's a great story. Thank you. Like, what am I worth? Mm-hmm. Like whatever that number is and what the investment is, like, well, what am I worth to myself? If I'm not willing to invest X into myself, what am I willing to do? Like, where is my focus, right? And so it's the mentality is between scarcity and abundance, right? Because it's an expectation that I'm going to get something before I'm going to give something. Right. But the reality is that's not how things work, right? We have to give before we get, right? To your example earlier, actually, John, about people that do get rewards without doing anything. Right, that might be true, right? For sure. Like, there's going to be, hey, look, we live in an environment where we get news from not only every single person in the country we live in, but every single person in the world, if we want to.
Oh yeah,
feels like that at least. And so it's just too much information for us to deal with. And because of the sample size is so big, there's going to be a lot of people that are the anomalies because just the sample size is so big. You're going to hear stories like that. You're going to hear weird stuff. People got given all of the things that they have and they didn't do anything for it. Yeah. And that's fine. That happens for sure. But it's relatively very, very small. And you know what? The biggest part of that, the most important part of that is that the people that have that reward without doing anything, one, probably don't appreciate it, and two, doesn't fulfill them because they haven't done anything for it.
Right.
Exactly. That's why people that win the lotto that have millions of pounds or dollars end up losing it because they're not the person that they need to be in order to have that. It writes itself again, right? And so like there's no shortcuts here. Again, back to short-term thinking. That there's no silver bullet. Anything worthwhile takes a journey, and it starts with an investment. Absolutely. And the best place to invest, yourself.
Yeah. That's the place where if you're investing in yourself, that's a secure investment. You know that as long as you're investing in yourself and you're going to put in the work, guess what? You know you're going to get a return on your investment. There are no doubts about that. People will spend, people will spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 investing in the stock market, hoping that they get a return. Hoping. But somebody won't spend $2,000 on a 12-week or a 16-week program to improve the quality of their life through health and fitness. It's like, what in the hell are you thinking? Makes no sense. Okay, I've got one other question for you before I ask you the final question of the episode. What would you say, or what tips would you give people in any walk of life when it comes to designing the life that they want? How do they have the life that they want on their terms?
I've been postulating a lot about a couple of different areas that I think that drive most people, that most of us want recently, and so I share that if I may.
Sure.
Number one, I already mentioned it actually, is around honesty. Let's start. Let's just be honest with ourselves, and we don't need someone else to tell us. Like, we can all do this for ourselves. It's just ask yourself, am I willing to give myself permission to be honest with myself? Mm-hmm. If you answer no, then you know where you are. Nothing's going to change. If you answer yes, you can start to explore that a bit more, to really call things out that you don't want in your life. What are the things that your life just really aren't good enough? What are the things that you say that are good enough, but good enough is not good enough? Right? What are those things? Right. So that honesty, and just get it out there, right? Whatever area of your life, all of the areas of your life. And then once you've got that, great. Celebrate the hell out of that. Next step, responsibility. Right. I want to be clear about here, responsibility is nothing but the ability to respond. It is not the same as blame. Blame can be useful in small pieces for some of that pain, but we don't want to live there. It's not helpful. Right. People tend to blame outside stuff first, especially situations, because situations can't fight back, other people, and then they blame themselves, but that's not helpful, right? So let's push that to one side, make that distinction. So honesty, clarity about what it is that you want in your life that you haven't got right now. Responsibility, remembering that you have the ability to respond to those things, and that's going to move you to action. And then wrap that all up in time, because that's the only thing we're not going to get more of. And there's an abundance of every other resource, relatively speaking, more than any individual will need. The only thing we're not going to get more of is time. So that should be the thing that scares you and drives you to get the most hunger possibly can.
Absolutely. You know, I want to go back and touch on something that you were just talking about, because I think it's something that people lean on and actually wallow in a lot, and that's blame. You know, when people blame themselves, they usually turn that inward in a negative light rather than using it in a positive way, and that hinders their project or progress. And when they're blaming everybody else, they're deflecting, and they're not taking ownership of what it is that's actually going on in their life and the part that they play in it. Look, it's real simple. If you're eating like shit and you're 20 or 30 pounds overweight, who do you have to blame? Do you have the food industry to blame because they put all these chemicals and all these hidden sugars in foods? No. I mean, is that a problem? Sure it is. But when you break it right down to brass tacks, I don't care whether you're trying to improve your health, whether you're trying to improve your business. I don't care what it is. You ultimately, at the end of the day, have the power. So many things are in our own control that we just let happen. And then we want to sit around and feel sorry for ourselves because we're not where we want to be in our lives. And that's horseshit. I actually just got caught up in that not too long ago. With all the issues, I'll get it out here in a minute. I've had a lot of health issues over the last 18 months. And because of that, I picked up a fair amount of weight. And here I am, and I'm sitting in my office, and I'm like, I'm working with clients, and I'm trying to help all these people. And I'm like, I felt like such an imposter. It was like, I felt like, where do I get off trying to tell people how to improve their health, how to improve workouts, how to improve nutrition, when I'm sitting here 45 pounds overweight? And it's like, it didn't click for quite a while. And then it was like, you know what? The reason I can do that is because I was a hell of a lot worse off 13 years ago. I was 405 pounds. I almost died. So it's not like I don't know how to make that journey, because I've done it before, and I'm going to do it again. And I got out of the imposter syndrome when I started thinking about that. It's not like just because I'm a little overweight right now, I don't still have the knowledge within me to help others. It was just the way that I was blaming myself. I was turning all that blame and all that stress and frustration inward, and it was standing in the way of me progressing in my journey. So I'm really glad that you touched on blame, because that is something, it can be a powerful motivator, but it can sure as hell be a powerful obstacle too. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And the more that you're focused on blame, you're focused on yourself, you can't help others.
Yep.
And that's the thing when it comes back down to it. Like if you're focused on you, self-centered fear, you can't help others. So thanks for sharing that, Charlie. And it's real. It's real.
Yeah.
Right? It's being vulnerable. Part of that is building rapport with others anyway. Like we're all on a you said that part of that journey, but it's all part of your bigger journey. It's all part of our bigger journey. We're always on a journey, and always continues. The only day that we're not on a journey is when we're dead, and we're all part of it. Right? And it's using parts of your journey to enhance the next stage of your journey and where you are right now. So that's the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, my friend, now for the final question. Okay. If you could affect one thing about health and fitness specifically on a global level, meaning that you would institute a policy, put some kind of thought or philosophy out into the world that would affect health and fitness on a global level, what would it be?
Oh, this is great. I love this question. So for me, it will be either to institute or request or put the thought process out there, or have the belief be shared that the first thing that everyone should do in the morning before any sort of social media interaction, no phones, no screens allowed until they've moved their body. And so does that mean that like an hour workout? Maybe. Does that mean like a 10-minute run? Maybe. Does that mean like 2 minutes jump rope? Maybe. Does that mean like 10 burpees? Maybe. Whatever it is, something to move your body, start things rocking and rolling in the morning. That gives you the best possible start in order to fill your mind intentionally with what you need to have the most successful day. And if we all did that, wow.
Yeah, I'll say, that is, dude, that's an awesome answer. It really is. I've asked that question to about 30 people now, and that is without a doubt a different take. But yet it's so powerful, and again, I'm going to go back and quote Tony Robbins, but he talks so much about, if you want to change your state, it's all about changing your physiology. Move. Because movement is so integral. We are not creatures that were designed to sit still.
Yeah.
But we live in a world where we have supercomputers right here in the palm of our hands. And I mean, for God's sake, people can't even go to the bathroom and have a normal bowel movement without spending 20 minutes in there flipping through TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or something like that. You know that they are not that unregular that it takes them 20 minutes to take a dump, yet they're in there looking at their damn phones. Your phone is like a rabbit hole that people fall down into, and I think that is so powerful. When you get up in the morning, don't don't turn the TV on to listen to CNN. Don't pick up your phone and see if you got any emails overnight or anything that. Hell, even if you're just go outside and go for a walk, absorb some vitamin D from the sun, get some fresh air, do that before you do anything else in the course of your day. I totally agree, man. That was amazing. All right, Nick, we're about run out of time. So why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can find you if they want to reach out to you?
And what a pleasure. Thank you very much. We could go on all day, I expect. Thank you very much. It's been great. So you can find me at, here's my email address. Really simple, nick@proadvisorcoach.com, nick@proadvisorcoach.com. Reach out to me, or you can go in the proadvisorcoach.com website, check it out. Some of the stuff that I do with the company I work with. There's some great people there. And we're helping a lot of people, a lot of companies get and create their life and on their own terms. You can get me on LinkedIn as well, and I'm sure that John you share the link. That's where I'm most active, posting videos and such. Yep. And I'd also like to share with all of your viewers, your listeners as well, that I have a really cool thinking assessment, which is great for awareness, creating honesty. We talked about today as well, which I'd love to give. It has a $500 value, and I'd love to give that to any of your listeners, viewers, complimentary. And please just reach out, and I'll be happy to share that.
Okay. Is there anything that they need to like put in their correspondence that they heard you on the JAK'ed podcast or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Just let me know that you've heard me on here, and I will go ahead and give you access to that. And you'll get definitely some good value for sure.
That's amazing, my friend. I sure do appreciate it. All right, my friend, sit tight. I'm going to wrap this up real quick, and I'll be right back, and we can have some parting words. All right, guys. I full disclosure, Nick and I have been working to try to get this episode together for some time now. We recorded it a couple months back, and I kind of fell behind due to surgery and whatnot to get it edited. And then when I went to edit it, there was no sound. So I really, really want to thank Nick for coming on the show. He's been a super trooper working with me. And I'm glad that he did, because I really want you guys to get this information. I think this was a really powerful episode. Lots of gems of wisdom in this. By all means, if you guys are interested in a business coach, a health coach, whatever it is, reach out to Nick. He's obviously, you can tell that he's on the same train of thought as me. And that's a pretty good train to be on in my point of view. So if you got value from this video, do me a favor, share it with your friends, hit the subscribe button, be sure to hit the bell and the all, so that way you get notified anytime new episodes of the JAK'ed podcast drop. And until I see you again, you guys know my motto: playtime's over. It's time to go to work.